Every headline about OpenClaw right now is about security bans, government warnings, and rogue agents hijacking inboxes. But while enterprise security teams are busy writing ban policies, a completely different story is playing out at the small business level, and Forbes just put hard numbers to it. We are talking about replacing an $80,000 annual operations cost with a single local machine, a free tier LLM, and 1 afternoon of setup time. That is not a hypothetical. That is the actual math, and this video is going to walk you through every line of it. Forbes published a deep dive arguing that OpenAI's acquisition of OpenClaw's creator, Peter Steinberger, is the single best ROI event in small business AI history. Not because of what OpenAI will do with OpenClaw in the future, but because of what the security hardening that comes with enterprise backing does to the adoption barrier right now. The argument is straightforward. OpenClaw was always technically capable of replacing significant operational headcount for small businesses. The thing stopping adoption wasn't capability, it was the risk profile. Enterprise-grade security investment from OpenAI's team changes that equation, and the businesses moving fastest are the ones that already understand the underlying workflow math. Let's start with the baseline cost model that Forbes uses, because the numbers are more concrete than most AI ROI analyses you'll read. A typical small business running 5 core operational workflows needs to pay for those workflows somehow. The 5 workflows Forbes identifies as universally common across small businesses are customer email triage, invoice processing, competitive research, content drafting, and internal reporting. If you staff these workflows with a part-time operations hire, you're looking at roughly $40,000 to $55,000 annually, depending on your market. If you use a SaaS stack instead, a dedicated email management tool, an accounts payable automation platform, a competitive intelligence subscription, a content generation tool, and a reporting dashboard, you're looking at a combined recurring cost of $5,000 to $8,000 per month, which puts you at $60,000 to $96,000 annually. The midpoint of that range, roughly $78,000, is where Forbes gets the $80,000 figure. Now here's what OpenClaw running locally on a single machine with Ollama and a free tier LLM costs to operate. Electricity and 1 developer's initial setup time. Recurring cost after setup is 0. That delta between $78,000 and 0 is the ROI number, and it is real if the automation actually works reliably. The entire argument in the Forbes piece, and the entire argument of this video, is about whether OpenClaw can actually deliver that reliability, and what version 2026.3.2 specifically changes about that answer. Email triage is the workflow where OpenClaw's WhatsApp and Telegram integration model becomes immediately practical for non-technical small business operators. You configure OpenClaw to monitor a Gmail or Outlook inbox via the native email integration. The agent reads incoming messages, classifies them by priority and category using the LLM, drafts responses for routine inquiries using templates you define in the system prompt, and flags anything requiring human judgment to a separate folder with a Telegram notification to your phone. The technical setup requires configuring OAuth credentials for your email provider, which SecretRef now handles cleanly as one of its 64 supported credential targets in 2026.3.2, and writing a system prompt that defines your classification logic and response templates. For a business receiving 50 to 100 emails per day, the time savings from eliminating manual inbox triage is typically 3 to 4 hours per week. At a $25 hourly operations rate, that is $3,900 to $5,200 annually in recovered time from a single workflow. This is where version 2026.3.2's native PDF engine becomes directly relevant to the small business ROI calculation. Before this release, automating invoice processing in OpenClaw required a custom skill to extract PDF text, chunk it, and pipe it through the LLM. For a non-technical small business owner, that setup was a realistic barrier. For a developer, it was a 2-hour project that still broke on PDFs with complex table formatting. In 2026.3.2 removes both barriers. You configure OpenClaw to monitor an email attachment folder or a watch directory. When a PDF arrives, the agent natively ingests the full document, extracts vendor name, invoice number, line items, totals, and due dates using the LLM reasoning layer. Matches the extracted data against your accounts payable records in a local database or spreadsheet, and flags discrepancies or duplicates via Telegram notification. The entire workflow runs without any pre-processing code. For a business processing 30 to 50 invoices monthly, this eliminates roughly 2 to 3 hours of manual data entry per month. Modest on its own, but this is one of 5 parallel workflow automations, and the compounding effect across all 5 is what drives the headline ROI number. Competitive research is the workflow where OpenClaw's Puppeteer integration and web scraping capabilities create the most asymmetric advantage for small businesses. Enterprise companies have dedicated competitive intelligence teams and paid subscription tools like Crayon or Clue running at $20,000 to $50,000 annually. Small businesses historically have had no viable equivalent. OpenClaw changes this directly. You define a list of competitor URLs, pricing pages, product pages, blog feeds, job postings, and schedule a daily or weekly scraping run. The agent uses Puppeteer to fetch the current content of each page, pipes the raw data through the LLM to extract meaningful signals, price changes, new product announcements, hiring patterns that indicate strategic direction, content strategy shifts, and compiles a structured competitive intelligence summary that gets delivered to your Telegram or email. Job posting monitoring is particularly valuable for small businesses. Knowing that a competitor just posted 3 senior engineering roles in a specific product area gives you 6 to 9 months of advanced signal about where their product is heading. That kind of intelligence used to cost $30,000 a year. With OpenClaw, it costs a Puppeteer configuration file and a well-written system prompt. Content drafting and internal reporting are the 2 workflows where OpenClaw's value is most straightforward to explain and easiest to underestimate. For content drafting, the agent monitors your content calendar, a simple CSV or Notion database, identifies upcoming publication dates, pulls relevant source material from your defined research sources, and drafts initial content pieces in your defined brand voice. The output is not publication ready without human review, but reducing a 2-hour content creation session to a 20-minute editing session across 5 pieces per week is a 75% time reduction, on a workflow that many small businesses spend 10 hours per week on. Internal reporting is even simpler. You define the data sources, your CRM, your e-commerce platform, your ad accounts, provide OpenClaw with API credentials via secret ref, and schedule a weekly report generation run. The agent pulls current data from each source, runs a Python script to compute the metrics you care about, and generates a structured narrative summary using the LLM. For a business that currently spends 2 hours every Friday manually compiling a weekly performance report, OpenClaw reduces this to a scheduled task that delivers a complete report to your inbox before you wake up. Here is the part of the Forbes argument that is most counterintuitive but most important. The acquisition of Peter Steinberger by OpenAI sounds like bad news for an open source project, and in terms of future development independence, there are real concerns. But for small business adoption specifically, it changes one crucial variable: the risk perception of IT and security consultants who advise small businesses on software decisions. Before the acquisition, a security-conscious IT consultant evaluating OpenClaw for a small business client would flag the root access model, the clawjacked vulnerability history, and the lack of enterprise security backing as grounds for recommending against adoption. After the acquisition, OpenAI's security team is actively contributing hardening patches to the project. The same IT consultant looking at the same tool now sees a different risk profile. This is not a technical change to OpenClaw's architecture. It is a reputational and institutional change that removes the human gatekeeping barrier that was blocking small business adoption at the IT advisory level. The 3 security patches in 2026.3.2, Gateway WebSocket Hardening, Symbolic Link Escape Protection, and Plugin Root Deduplication, are the first concrete output of that security investment. The trajectory is clear and it is pointing in the direction of reduced risk, which is the direction of increased small business adoption. Real. But it is worth being honest about where the math has assumptions baked in. The $80,000 baseline assumes you are currently paying market rate for either a SaaS stack or operations staffing, and that your 5 core workflows map cleanly onto what OpenClaw can automate. If your workflows are highly specialized, require regulatory compliance logging, or depend on integrations that are not in OpenClaw's native skill library, the setup complexity increases significantly, and the zero-cost assumption breaks down. The zero recurring cost claim also assumes you are running a local LLM via Ollama. If you are routing through Claude or GPT API for higher quality reasoning on complex documents, you are paying token costs that scale with usage volume. For high volume workflows, processing hundreds of invoices or thousands of emails monthly, those token costs can meaningfully reduce the cost delta. The honest small business ROI calculation requires you to model your specific workflow volumes against the API costs of your target LLM before committing to the zero-cost framing. None of this invalidates the core argument. It just means the $80,000 is a ceiling on ROI for the ideal use case, not a guaranteed outcome for every small business that installs OpenClaw. Zero recurring cost, 5 automated workflows, 1 machine, 1 afternoon of setup. That is the ceiling case for OpenClaw as a small business operations platform, and the native PDF engine, the 64 target secret system, and the security hardening in 2026.3.2 bring more small businesses inside that ceiling than any previous release. The enterprise teams banning OpenClaw and the small businesses quietly automating their operations with it